Hello, I'm here at one of my favorite museums in the world, the Maryborough Military and Colonial Museum. This is a fantastic institution here in Maryborough, which is absolutely filled with interesting, fascinating, unique, and rare artifacts with great displays and exhibitions. One of the really interesting artifacts is this sword, this ceremonial sword, which was owned by a very interesting man named Gilbert Eliott. He was a Member of Parliament here in Australia, first in New South Wales and then Queensland, and for 10 years, 1860 to 1870, he was the very first Speaker of the Queensland Parliament. He was born in 1796 at Stobbs Castle in Roxburghshire, Scotland. He was born into a very old family, the Eliotts, and was the third son of Sir William Eliott, who was the sixth baronet in that line, which has continued on to today. This Eliott, Gilbert Eliott, was the third son. So if he had been the first son, he obviously would have had a very different life mapped out for him as the baronet. But as the third son, like other sons born into these type of families, he needed to find a way for himself in the world. As a young man, he entered the army, and as a captain in the Royal Artillery, he served with the occupation forces in France in 1815, which military historians will obviously associate with Waterloo, and he continued to serve in the military afterwards. In his 40s, he then made the decision to cross the globe to Australia, where he contributed a great deal to the public life in the colonies here. With his wife and 3 children, he arrived in Sydney in November 1839 and was appointed a Justice of the Peace. On the recommendation of the Earl of Auckland, who was a near relation of Eliott's, it always helps, he was appointed police magistrate at Parramatta by Governor Sir George Gipps in June 1842. As visiting justice at the female factory, he uncovered serious fraud and embezzlement. Countercharges were brought by the superintendent, which led to an inquiry. This inquiry found that Eliott to be, quote, an excellent public officer and a man of unimpeachable integrity. In 1846, he was considered for the public office of Comptroller General of Convicts in Van Diemen's Land, which we now know as Tasmania, but was unsuccessful despite strong support from Gipps and Sir Charles Fitzroy, whose wife Mary Maryborough is coincidentally named after. In June 1854, he became the chief of the 3 commissioners of the City of Sydney, a position he held until 1857. It was about this time that he became involved in our region, that he moved up to what would become Queensland. He took out a number of pastoral leases in the Burnett and Wide Bay region, and he represented the Wide Bay area. It was then called Burnett District in the New South Wales Parliament, which was obviously a long way away. To represent Burnett in the Parliament in Sydney took quite a bit of effort, but he was not actually the member for very long because this was the time leading up to separation when Queensland separated from New South Wales. He served in the New South Wales Parliament from July to December 1859. He was opposed to separation. This didn't actually prevent him from being elected easily in May 1860 as the Member of Parliament for Wide Bay in the Queensland Parliament. When he went down to the Queensland Parliament for the very first sittings, there weren't actually a lot of members who had parliamentary experience, so he was a natural choice to be the first Speaker of the Parliament of Queensland. He retained this important position until his retirement in 1870 without missing a single day's sitting, which is really quite incredible. He was always considered benign and courteous whilst firm, and he was very popular with the members and out in the public. If you're interested in stories like this, in the history of our region, particularly military history, or even if you just want to learn more about our region, Queensland and Australia, I can't recommend the Maryborough Military and Colonial Museum highly enough. This is a fantastic place with surprising artifacts like this, and it is run by what I think is the best team of volunteers anywhere. The team of volunteers here at the Maryborough Military and Colonial Museum know their stuff. They really welcome you here. So if you ever get the chance to come to this museum, I highly recommend it, but make sure you set aside quite a bit of time because you can spend hours and even days here. Again, thank you to the volunteers who make this museum the fantastic institution it is, and I hope to see you here soon.